surface reports are not as accurate as we'd like for them to be. But again, when tornado warnings are issued, we just really talk and ask questions later. We just tell folks to get sheltered, get where they're supposed to be, and that's pretty much the end of it. Main line is trying to catch up with a lot of these cells, but they are still pretty much just kind of doing their own thing in their own environment. The tornado threat, as I've mentioned, is lower but not zero within this main line. In fact, as this line starts to tap into what has been a relatively untapped environment through the course of the day in terms of warm, humid air and the available ingredients for severe weather, this line could strengthen and potentially produce its own possible tornado risks. So these are all things that to take into consideration. We've got about another 2 to 3 hours of this kind of stuff moving through our area, and then again, the last of us will see the severe weather threat end. There is a lot of areas in the western half, the viewing area, that have already seen their severe weather threat end. So that's positive news, but in the short term, still focused, again, areas of Delhi and the surrounding areas to the along I-20 and points perhaps even farther northeast than that. Again, you've had the call to action for a while now to get to your safe place and stay there, and we urge you to continue to stay there until this possible tornado passes. The latest radar sweep shows that possible circulation now kind of crawling north of Delhi, crawling right along Highway 80, and will continue to move off to the north. As Alex mentioned, high-profile vehicles on I-20, you don't want to meet these winds. It can topple 18-wheelers and things of that nature in these types of scenarios. So urging folks to avoid travel, especially if you're heading from Vicksburg or Jackson westward toward Monroe. This is not a good day to do it. A lot of heavy rainfall and blinding rainfall perhaps at times, and along with that, the potential for some localized street flooding and flash flooding as these slow-moving storms, again, moving 30, 40 miles an hour, you think, okay, it's a pretty good clip, but when you start dumping some 2 and 3 and 4 inch rain rates in a pretty short period of time, then you're talking about a lot of rain in a short period, and that can create its own issues in terms of travel and creating their own hazards on the roadways. So again, just want to urge folks with the utmost caution today to be sheltered and in your safe places. Also still checking this storm back to the southwest. Not much there from what we were looking at earlier. In fact, I was really concerned that we may be running into a potential tornadic storm, and that's still a possibility, especially as you kind of look right along 425 in this area, but I would say a tornado is not necessarily imminent in those regions. So again, stay sheltered. You're under a severe thunderstorm warning as these storms crawl off to the north and east. This Delhi storm has taken a little bit of a different structure right now, and I don't know if we're in a cycling phase or if it's getting some interference from the line itself, or if the storm itself is maybe splitting like we had that one do a little bit earlier. Kind of tough to figure out what's happening here, Alex.
Yeah, I agree. But also some good news, as we aforementioned, if you are behind the main line of storms, it is likely that your threat for severe weather is ending. And just to echo that, Jackson Parish, Lincoln Parish, Union Parish, you have been trimmed out of the current tornado watch that still is continued for the rest of the eastern Arklamis until 9 p.m. So this potential area of rotation near Delhi, as Jared aforementioned, is potentially going through a recycling. It is not pretty on radar, as some areas have a distinct hook echo. This one does not. And as it continues to move off towards the northeast, we will see potentially the storm stretch, but the main line also seems to be catching up with this cell and potentially undercutting it from all the potential energy that it could use to sustain its severe qualities and even that rotation. We've been mentioning that these cells really like staying by themselves, and anytime we see interference with that, you can see again the main line here catching up to it. It's not going to have the environment possible or needed to thrive in that area, and so it could potentially be undercut by the main line advancing forward and towards the east, so through Rayville. And also on the note of the heavier showers and thunderstorms along the I-20 corridor, yesterday or day before yesterday, when our previous system moved through, it also produced a lot of rainfall. So seeing that we have this much rain added on top of already soaked soils, it's possible that some roads are seeing localized flash flooding or ponding. And that's another thing that we're tracking throughout the course of the day. It's a mini mode of severe weather day. We're tracking hail, damaging wind gusts, tornadoes, and flash flooding across the Arklamas region, especially off towards the east. Now, this area near Delhi, this potential area of rotation, I don't know about you, Jared, but it doesn't seem to have a very distinct or couplet like it did even just a few scans ago.
No, and we're starting, like I said, we're getting a little bit of essentially interference from this main line, which is starting to catch up to things. And for all intents and purposes, that's a really, really good thing. Again, we mentioned it earlier, and we kind of joke about it in less serious times that supercells are basically like an introverted birthday party guest. They want to be part of the environment, but they still kind of want to be left alone. And when they get close to storms or other supercells or a main line or a quasi-linear convective system, which this is what this is. It's a very fancy term for basically saying a line of thunderstorms. When they get that close, you get other features in the environment. You don't have this just moisture-rich southeasterly wind feeding storms all this energy. Then you start getting winds at the surface that are blowing out of the northwest. You get rain-cooled air surging in. You get outflow that can disrupt that wind field. And these storms need a very delicate balance of what's happening with the winds at the surface. They really need those winds out of the south or southeast. And as you move higher in the atmosphere, they need those winds out of the south and then eventually the southwest. And those winds need to kind of, they back at the surface and then veer back to the south and west as you move higher in the atmosphere. And if you have something that happens at the surface that can disrupt all that stuff, then in theory, in many instances, storms will start to weaken or they lose their structure or they become a little less disorganized. Now, all that said, some storms can slough all that off and just kind of shrug it off and just keep doing their thing. And this is one of those environments today where a lot of storms will perhaps be able to do that, just kind of shrug off what's happening in the environment around them and continue to do their own thing. But at least what we're seeing from our leading edge of activity is that a lot of this is perhaps cycling, going through essentially like a power cycle where it weakens and then it'll pulse back up again. But the overall depiction of this storm is much less disorganized than it was, say, 10, 15 minutes ago. That is, again, all positive signs. Back out to the south and west, we still have additional severe thunderstorm warnings. Our Morehouse Parish, East Carroll, West Carroll, Ashley, Chico County severe thunderstorm warning has just been allowed to expire. It was set to expire at 4:15. Our current tornado warning goes until 4:30, so we'll stick with you on air for at least another 15 minutes unless this warning's canceled early. But still monitoring areas within this embedded line, these other subtle supercell structures, and again, to repeat for our friends that are on our social media feeds, for folks west of this line, I'll go ahead and draw a line just to make it easier on everybody. But for folks that are west of this line right here, in fact, probably even closer to the leading edge, everybody back this direction. Everybody, and I just messed up the entire line, but you get the general idea of what I'm talking about. Everybody from this line westward, you're in the severe clear. That means you're done with severe weather potential. For folks out ahead of the main line, from far southern reaches of Chico County into East Carroll and West Carroll parishes and eastern Richland Parish and all the way back to the south and west, all the way back toward Alexandria. Got to stay weather aware. I know you're tired of doing this. Everybody, we've been telling folks to be weather aware since 7 o'clock this morning. It's been a long day of just staring at radar screens and getting information, and I know it's annoying, but we got to hang on for a couple more hours until we can get these storms east of the area. Monroe, El Dorado, Ruston. You folks have seen a lot of rain. You've seen some thunderstorms, but overall, you've kind of dodged the severe threat. Consider yourselves very fortunate and go about the rest of your day. But for folks on the leading edge, the southeastern third southeastern quarter of our viewing area is still very much, for lack of a better term, in the crosshairs of this potential severe weather threat. This is a moderate risk severe weather day, level 4 out of 5 categories. Some folks are going to have some real big problems on their hands in terms of tornadoes today. We've already had damage reported and tornadoes on the ground in and around the Houston area. We've had the storm in Brookhaven, which is off to the north and east. But so far in our area, aside from the one visually confirmed tornado in Franklin Parish, we've had numerous tornado warnings, but we haven't seen a lot, and I'm not saying that we're not going to get them, but so far we haven't seen a lot of widespread wind damage reports or tornado damage reports and things of that nature. So if we can go the next 2 or 3 hours or so with these storms exiting off to the east and perhaps behaving themselves a little bit more, we would, in a sense, kind of get out of this severe threat on a very positive and good note. That's not a guarantee. It's an optimistic point of view. Go ahead, Alex.
Just to echo on the fact that as they continue to move potentially further eastward out of our area, that they are potentially decreasing in intensity, especially along the main line in Ashley, Chico, Morehouse, West Carroll, East Carroll parishes. That severe thunderstorm warning that was issued about an hour ago has now been replaced with a special weather statement, which means that these area, the storm, is strong but sub-severe. The parameters have not been met to qualify it as a severe thunderstorm system, and that's potentially what we will see as the main line meets up with these smaller cellular systems and smaller cellular storms. Because again, they do like their own environment, and when you have such a large line of thunderstorms eating away at that fuel and energy, these smaller storms in the front of it will not have any supply, any fuel to thrive off of in that particular environment. Now, in particular for Delhi, again, I'm not really seeing, as Jared said earlier, a large echo of rotation. There seems to be wind gusts around Delhi, even south of the I-20 corridor in this area. But that doesn't mean that there is a confirmed tornado, a tornado on the ground. It just shows that the reds and the greens mixing, that shows that there are winds that are going towards and away from the radar that is currently being used, which are our live storm tracker Doppler radar. So we do have gusty winds at the very minimum near Delhi and just north as it continues to move off towards northeast. But as far as a confirmed rotation, it does not look like it is very robust or tight in any sense. Now, as the other cells that are further south of it, they're in their own environment. So we're not just keeping an eye on this one potential system, but also on all of the others that are ahead of this main line as it continues to move eastward and northeastward. So areas along 65 in Ashley and Chico County, you also need to start being aware of what's happening if the main line has not caught up to you yet. And as Jared aforementioned, if you were behind it, so Monroe westward, essentially, you are practically done with your severe weather threat for the day. We are seeing some of the tornado watches being trimmed out of the watch, but if you reside along the Mississippi River Valley or you're still getting the alert that a tornado watch is in your area, you need to have those alerts turned on at least until 9 p.m. or until that tornado watch has been canceled. We are also seeing we have a new tornado warning for East Carroll, Madison, Morehouse, Richland, and West Carroll, and they're also showing signs of small hail with it. It is 10 miles north of Delhi, moving northeast at 40 miles per hour.
Yeah, so that's a new tornado warning that has just been issued. In fact, you're probably getting the alerts on your phone in East Carroll and West Carroll parishes. This new tornado warning, again, for southeastern Morehouse Parish, southern East Carroll Parish, northwestern Madison Parish, northeastern Richland Parish, and West Carroll Parish until 5:15. Severe thunderstorms capable of producing a tornado near Epps. Moving to the northeast at 40 miles per hour. Again, areas impacted Monticello, Pioneer, Epps, Darnell, Forest, Oak Grove, Lake Providence, all in the path of this storm, as a new tornado warning has now been issued until 5:15 for those areas. So again, we've been talking about these storms for a while now. You want to be in your safe place, interior portion of your home, away from windows and doors. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Think an interior hallway, closet, or bathroom. This is our possible tornado here, again, trailing off to the north and east. But as the line starts to interact the main line starts to interact with these supercells, we can run into some kind of odd coincidences where these cells merge with the line. And what we've talked about for the better part of the last 20 minutes is how the line can disrupt these cells, but they can also merge and not merge in terms of creating some kind of super strong super tornado or anything like that. But when they merge, all those ingredients just kind of ooze together, and then you give this storm a little bit of an opportunity to kind of reform and recycle, and then there you go with another tornado potential. And that's kind of what we're dealing with here. Is we're kind of trapped in an area where the line itself may be kind of producing its own tornado threat. And I was also still watching an area in our existing tornado warning south of Delhi. There's this little notch here that also at times has shown some signs of rotation. So it's, again, still a very quickly evolving scenario for a lot of folks. And for folks that just heard Morehouse Parish, this is far, far southeastern reaches of Morehouse Parish. It does not include Bastrop. It does not include Collinston. It doesn't look like it includes Marouge. So again, just kind of bringing that point home, and for folks that we've already told you the severe weather's ended, it has. This is the extreme eastern edges of Morehouse Parish, where we look at a possible tornado forming generally north of I-20, Oak Grove, Lake Providence, Epps, Darnell, a lot of these surrounding areas in East Carroll and West Carroll parishes. We urge you to take proper tornado precautions, move interior portion of your home away from windows and doors, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Think of an interior hallway, closet, or bathroom. We have said that a lot today. Now, those two areas of rotation that I'm talking about are pretty evident on air or on screen. If I can get over to our telestrator and clear that box out of the way, we're looking at this area right here, and then eventually this area right here as kind of a newly formed area already in our existing tornado warning as an area of concern that could eventually potentially spawn a tornado. So as I put it back into reflectivity, and you can see how jumbled of a mess this is in terms of a normal traditional radar depiction for folks along or near and south of Epps. I urge you right now to take proper tornado precautions. We're talking north of Delhi, so you're talking kind of the Poverty Point area and some of the surrounding regions are in and around Poverty Point. You folks want to be sheltered now and in your safe place along Highway 80 and points farther northward than that. So again, we've got two different general areas of concern as these storms continue off to the north and east. But again, the new tornado warning goes until 5:15, includes East Carroll, West Carroll parishes, parts of Morehouse and Madison parishes as well. Tornado watch still remains in effect until 9, basically for this main leading area of concern. We're still also watching some storms that'll be moving into portions of Tensas Parish, portions of maybe northern Catahoula Parish, and even maybe far northern reaches of Concordia Parish. But this big jumbled mess right here is kind of the main concern, and for lack of a better term, probably our main event, if you will, for the afternoon and evening as those storms continue off to the north and east. So again, we've got another 2 or 3 hours-ish, maybe sooner than that, before these storms can get clear of the Mississippi River. But in the short term, a very dangerous situation, and a situation where, again, we just urge folks to avoid travel, stay off the roads if you can. There's not necessarily a great road network in this area that if you got caught on the road out ahead of a storm or something like that, it would be really, really difficult to find a way out of a dangerous situation. So please get somewhere, stay there, and wait for these storms to pass.
Smaller areas in just north of Epps would be Darnell, Floyd, New Hope, and Hale Road. So we can have some road names on the map here. So we have Old Delhi Road, Hunt Road, Old Delhi Road, closer to Epps. And as the storm moves off towards the northeast, it's moving at 40 miles per hour. So Pioneer even and Forest, you are off towards that northeastern section of the storm. There's not a large road network to speak of here. Again, so Prince Road, Parish Road, 255, Bowie, Martin Road, that's north of Floyd, Goodwin Street. If those all sound familiar to you, then you need to be in your safe place. And again, if you're just tuning in, if you just got this tornado warning and you haven't had one all day yet today, what your safe place is in the most interior room of whatever building you reside in. If you are driving, pull over. You do not want to be driving in this sort of a storm. In other smaller areas just off towards the north and northeast, again, is Green, Redwig, Forest. And if we look at specific street names and go further zoom in, that's Hale Road, Gowden Road, Hunt Road, Dummy Line Road. Those are all areas that if you know somebody, give them a call. Make sure that they're staying weather aware right now, because you do not have a lot of time to get into your safe place, wherever that may be, in your bathroom, in your closet, in the most interior room of your home or building that you are in, because the storm is moving, again, northeast at 40 miles per hour. And if we just take a glance off towards the south, as Jared aforementioned, south of Delhi, now south of I-20 and 80, that will shortly be crossing I-20 and 80. So if you're going from Monroe to Vicksburg to Monroe, even past Tallulah, that is not a good idea to do. In general, it's not a good idea to travel today, but if you are west of Monroe, it is likely that you will be clear for the rest of the night for the potential for severe weather. But we are seeing, again, stronger winds along the main line. So Waverly, west or east of Delhi, near Scott's Landing as well.
And a new severe thunderstorm warning has just been issued for parts of Tensas, Catahoula, and Franklin parishes. That goes until 5:15. That cluster of storms that we were talking about back to the south, you folks are now under a tornado warning. And as we take a look at the radar image from the National Weather Service in Jackson and some of the active tornado warnings and such that are in effect across the area, I just want to stress again that how much heavy rainfall is a possibility for these storms as they move into portions of northeastern Louisiana. We're talking maybe some quarter-sized hail embedded in these storms, so virtually impossible to see a tornado. We don't want your pictures. We don't want video. We want you sheltered. As Alex just mentioned, the most interior portion of whatever building you're in, underground's preferred. A lot of folks don't have underground shelters, whether it be storm shelters or basements. This is just not very common in this area. But there are above ground shelters. If you have one, go to it. Stay there. Interior hallway, closet, bathroom. You want to be there, protect yourself from flying debris. I always told folks growing up, grab a helmet, grab a pillow, or I always put my shoes on, because if something bad were to happen, you're probably going to want shoes to traverse through things. And these are all worst case scenarios. Most folks won't witness tornado damage today, and that's the way we like it. But we would prefer you err on the side of caution and get to your safe place and wait this thing out and wait for it to clear. At 4:30, our tornado warning to the south was allowed to expire, the one where we were watching that area of rotation back out to the south. We may need an additional tornado warning somewhere down the life cycle. Anytime you have these little notches in a line like that, it's a little concerning, and those are areas where, again, strong southeasterly winds feeding into a storm, and it feeds all that up in the atmosphere, and the next thing you know, you have the potential for a tornado to form. But back out to the west, severe threats continuing to weaken. This line continues to actually get a little bit stronger in terms of its reflectivity, at least what we're seeing on radar, as it surges off to the east and the northeast. Back out to the southwest, Alexandria and some of those surrounding areas. Here's our new tornado warning for the already existing storm back out to the south. This will include Tallulah and areas along Highway 65. So the earlier tornado warning that was in effect, that we were watching that area, and the tornado warning was allowed to expire for all of about 15 or 20 seconds. A new tornado warning now issued for Madison Parish. I don't think this includes any of of Franklin Parish. It looks like it's just Madison Parish to the north and east, and it includes southeastern sections of East Carroll Parish as well along Highway 65. Same rules apply to you folks. You've been under a tornado warning or you've been in the path of this storm for a while now. So this tornado will carry us all the way to the Mississippi River, includes Tallulah, and points westward along I-20 and along Highway 65. So again, that is a new tornado warning that just popped up on the map. Please seek shelter away from windows and doors. Protect yourself from flying debris. Just going to check real quick to see what we can see rotation-wise with this particular area. Yeah, still watching this spot right here. Still have a spot on the northern edge of this this particular cell, this spot right here. But you don't want to get kind of caught up in the semantics of it because this entire area is under a tornado warning. So within this line, there could be a tornado forming here, there could be one here, and there could be another one here. In theory, right here, you could have a window or a corridor of opportunity for a possible tornado. So again, it gets jumbled and messy really quick. And we just want folks to be sheltered here, here, and then back out to the south and west. All the areas in the path of this storm, Tallulah, the Epps area, or actually points east of Epps as you move over toward, like I said, the Darnell and Forest communities, and even over toward Lake Providence. This is our area of concern. In fact, maybe even including this area here, kind of an elongated area. Tough to see stuff, especially when you got a lot of heavy rain in this area. And so, again, err on the side of caution. Be in your safe place. Again, watching perhaps this area here. And I'm going to zoom out and we'll take a closer look at some of the stuff over here. Again, another spot that we would have to watch as these storms move off to the east. Tornado watch, again, still in effect till 9 o'clock. Generally, for our area, we expect the severe weather threat to end before 9 o'clock. Perhaps we can have the rest of our counties and parishes trimmed away, but that's going to take some time, especially since we still have these active warnings. Looking at the shear products, again, looking at gusty or twisting winds in the atmosphere, there's an area that's kind of highlighted currently. And that's one of the spots that we pointed out. Again, the other possible area here, and then just within the line, the possibility of a quick forming tornado can't be ruled out as these storms move off to the east at about 40 to 45 miles per hour.
A quick note, we are not actually live on KARD due to the power outages that are happening in Columbia, but we are still on KTVE and digital, and there was also a large power outage in Ruston. Okay,
so for folks that are seeing that power outage map, and actually I'll pop it up here on Links 1 real quick, just glancing at some of our power outage information. This is all very, very preliminary, and a lot of this will continue to populate as we get more information, but just checking some of the power outage numbers right now. Not a lot of widespread significant outages that are at least being reported to us right now through our data products. So still watching that. It's something that we'll watch as these storms continue to move off to the east.
And as we track these storms moving off towards the east, we're still keeping in mind that the main line of storms will also continue to carry off with it. And we're not tracking only the smaller discrete cells in front of it, but also the main line itself poses potential threats and a small rotation. This is a multi-mode of severe weather day. We have the damaging wind gusts, the isolated tornadoes along the line itself, not including the ones that we have already tracked today, and your damaging wind gust, your hail, and your localized flash flooding. We have already received abundant rainfall with our previous system this past few days. So when you add heavy rainfall rates on top of this, it does not make for a good combination, especially along these busy roadways. Now, in particular, we can take a look at the potential areas of rotation, and that's going to be north of I-20 now, near Epps, and even further northeast than that, that's Forest, that's Lake Providence, that's areas, again, closer to 65. If you know anyone traveling there, give them a call. Make sure that they are in their safe place. I also know there's a lot of trees in the area. If you do happen to go drive in the location today, be cautious because there may be debris, not just from tornado, but again, those stronger wind gusts that we're tracking along the main line of the storm could also produce debris on the roadways. It's going to be a pretty dangerous situation all the way around. And you want to give it some time before you do venture out, even if you are behind the main line, which is past Monroe and even Rayville and Bastrop. I would consider you in the clear as of right now. The cell that's towards the south, that the second one that recently got warned near Madison Parish, the couplet, the mixing of the greens and the reds that we're seeing is really hugging the line between these two tornado warnings, and that is just northeast of Delhi currently and southeast of Epps and just west of 65. So Bear Lake Road, Hobbs Road, Givens Road, those are all locations that, if it sounds familiar to you, the other community of Monticello, Louisiana, not in Arkansas, Monticello, Louisiana, also a nearby community that we're seeing Roosevelt, and as it continues to move, it's moving, I dare say, more towards the northeast than east, more north than the previous cells that we had discussed.
And also on that note, as we continue to follow all these storms and you see the flashing red boxes on the screen, just checking the energy outage map and again, kind of cross-referencing it with, for lack of a better term, we do have some power outages in El Dorado. There are some lines that are current powers off in El Dorado. We also have a power outage to the southwest of Bastrop, and there is a pretty large, extensive outage in terms of just what I'm seeing on a map right now to the northwest of Columbia. That was an area that had a potential tornado move through earlier. And then also another pretty extensive power outage in and around the Poverty Point area, which was the exact same area that we were just talking about earlier with the possible tornado. Now, again, we can't confirm that a tornado hit these areas at all. We can't even confirm why the power's out. It could be something as simple as, one tree limb falling in the right spot. So we don't want to go really overboard in trying to speculate why power is out in these areas. But to bring mention, if you're trying to watch us on Fox 14 and you're getting nothing, there's that particular transmitter is out in Caldwell Parish, and storms rolled through there pretty heavily. And so if you're trying to watch us on Fox 14, probably can at this point, and so you're just gonna have to kind of join us on NBC 10 or on social media, and we'll obviously continue to follow these storms. Additionally, there is a power outage. We're hearing from our production crew, who's been up here with us all day as well, that there is a power outage in Ruston. So a lot of folks are probably joining us on social media. I also want to reassert and urge the fact that if you are watching us on Facebook Live, there is going to be an extended delay. That's through no control of our own, through our digital team or anything like that. It's just the simple technology's limitations of we're doing something in a studio and it's being routed through a bunch of different things and then getting sent to a digital page, and then it has to get broadcast out to that digital page. So it does come with its limitations in terms of how quickly it can get out to the viewers. So if you are watching us in these areas and you've heard Oak Grove take cover, or Lake Providence take cover, or Darnell take cover, or whatever location, don't wait, because again, by the time that particular storm gets into your area, our call to action for you to take cover may be 40 seconds to a minute 15 old, and so you have even less time to act. So again, just want to urge folks and reiterate that for our folks that may be watching us on social media. It is becoming an increasingly more popular way for folks to consume their weather information, and we totally acknowledge that. But I just want folks to know the limitations of the technology that they're working with, and make sure that they are forward thinking on a day like today. Still watching our reds and greens combining together. We've continued to watch this particular line segment as it surges off to the east. It's certainly still capable of producing maybe some 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I know it's not necessarily implied here, but within that line. especially as it starts to surge or kind of bow out a little bit, what we call bow echoes a lot. But this main segment of this line kind of surging out ahead, so you've got this little backward C thing forming. That's probably an area of strong winds. Now, on the northern and southern edge of that, you can also have embedded tornadoes. So that is something to keep in mind as we see, as what Alex keeps calling a mixed mode of severe weather today. We've had supercells, we've had low-top supercells, we've had this, what we call a QLCS, a quasi-linear convective system, basically a line of thunderstorms moving into the region, and then some of those cells are merging in with the line. There's a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of it, quite frankly, we almost have to be reactionary on, because you see something happen, and you have to wait and see, how the atmosphere responds, how the particular storms respond to these particular instances. Still an area of rotation out in western sections or central sections of Tensas Parish. Not necessarily warning criteria or something that needs a tornado warning, but just, again, a sign of where folks need to be and that they need to be sheltered indoors and avoid travel. A lot of heavy rains falling. So roads may be washed out, flooded, whatever. In fact, Cindy Langston, our First at 4 South Arkansas anchor, actually sent me a message earlier from the Dermont area. So in northern Chico County, southern Deshay County, into eastern sections of Ashley County, a lot of those areas got hit by heavy rainfall and hail, and now the Dermont area is essentially impassable in terms of the roads. I'll also acknowledge that that particular community floods rather regularly. They're kind of right there at the base of the Mississippi River Valley, give or take a little bit, but they are an area and a community that tends to flood a little bit more regularly when they see the heavy rain rates. So basically, if you're across Chico County and into Ashley County, I would highly urge you just to stay home and enjoy a day at the house on this Saturday. Our area of rotation right along the two different tornado warnings that should be approaching Highway 65. I would urge folks, if you're driving south from Lake Providence to Tallulah on Highway 65, find somewhere to pull over. Admittedly, there's not a lot of areas to pull over between Lake Providence and Tallulah, so probably the sooner the better. And find a place, a sturdy structure, get inside, get as far inside as you can, and get away from windows. I know a lot of folks think, okay, I'm inside, I'm good. Well, that's all well and good till, a tree limb gets thrown at you at 70 miles an hour and shatters the window, and then you got completely different sets of problems. Again, it's just a scenario, but it is something that happens. And so we see videos all the time of people in the middle of a tornado, and instead of getting away from the windows, they're sitting at the windows, and then all of a sudden they go, oh no, I need to take cover. And it's just a bad scenario. It's just a bad idea. So just be there. For as I mentioned, Fox 14 viewers, we're off the air right now. Power outage at the transmitter site, and it's actually a lot of Caldwell Parish that's being impacted there. So just be aware. Still seeing that bowing segment, if you will, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, we're essentially just talking about this little backward C, if you will. I'll zoom in just a tad, but where we start to see the potential for some extended strong winds in this area right here as it surges out to the north and east. Could still produce a tornado. It would be kind of more difficult to see because it's going to be embedded in this line. But in this area right here, I would think maybe some 60 or 65 mile an hour wind gusts can't be completely ruled out. Again, haven't measured anything like that at the surface, but it's a possibility as the line and as we talked about merging cells and merging storms, as this storm becomes more line dominant instead of being a supercell, the damaging wind aspect will continue to be an issue as these storms continue off to the north and east. That's a new severe thunderstorm warning that Alex has.
Yes, it's in Catahoula, Concordia parishes, and that's going to go until 5:30 p.m. And to note that we are still tracking quarter-size hail with this. This is not something we want you to go outside and see. It was, again, moving northeast potentially at 55 miles per hour. So as the tail end of the entire line kind of whips around, it's likely that some of those winds will be a little bit quicker, especially now that we're seeing the bowing out segments for these storms, and just moving even further back towards the south and the southeast, or southwest, excuse me, near Alexandria. It's also showing signs of that curving of that initial front of the line, and that's where you get your gusty winds, your damaging wind gusts, and you may, after this event is over, go outside and think a tornado passed through here. Well, that cannot be confirmed, but honestly, most people don't know the difference between straight line wind gusts and tornado damage across the region. And that's also something to keep in mind if you're in the Tallulah area or in East Carroll Parish or in Madison Parish as well, that it's going to be hard to tell initially what kind of damage is what until it initially surveyed. Now, I will say near Lake Providence, there looks like some pretty breezy winds, and also just east of Oak Grove, that's right near 65. And just towards the south, now this secondary couplet that we were initially tracking, really hugging the line between the two tornado warnings, that is now starting to trek further northward than northeastward in my eye, which can potentially be an issue for areas near Forest and Epps that have already seen and received those damaging wind gusts from the further north area of potential rotation. So just to go and read some more street names, we have Carter Road, we have Hood Lane Road, Cotton Club Road, Arlington, the community of Arlington, and Lake Providence, Hollybrook, Greenfield, Bowie. Those are all locations that even if the area of rotation is not quite as robust as it was even just a couple scans ago, you're still under a tornado warning and need to be in your safe place. Further south, that area that is moving further north and northeast, a similar story. That's near Grimes, Transylvania. That's Bull Run Road, Pecan Road, Bush Road. If any of those sound familiar to you, get into your safe place. Give somebody a call if you know that they're not near their phone or not paying attention, because we have a lot of moving parts in this forecast, and it can be easy to get caught up in the array of all of the severe thunderstorm warnings that we've had, all of the tornado warnings even that we've had, because we've had quite a few at this point. And it can be hard for some folks to remain severe weather aware over the next few hours as we continue to track this.
Yeah, and we acknowledge the fact that folks get kind of tired of being inside or tired of being on alert, and we've been talking about this for a couple of days now, and we've been sending updates, and weather fatigue is a thing where you're like, you know what, it can't be that bad. Let me get out and let me go see if I can find damage. Let me go. Just stay off the roads, because again, if there is trees down, power lines down, and there's power crews trying to work to restore power and all these types of things, and then there's traffic trying to move through the roadways, you're just creating issues. And so we just urge folks to stay home. I wanted to read real quickly that the latest status message from the tornado warning in East Carroll and Madison Parish. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Forest or near Oak Grove, moving northeast at 40. The latest update on the East Carroll Madison storm is severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Sonheimer, 7 miles northwest of Tallulah, moving northeast at 45. So again, both of these tornadoes still have a potential of producing tornadoes as they move off to the east and eventually approach the Mississippi River. In full disclosure, once these storms move across the Mississippi River, if there are no tornado warnings in our area, we'll go ahead and send you back to programming and continue to monitor the stuff off to the south, because our service area basically ends along the Mississippi River Valley. So these storms will move east probably in the next 40 minutes or so. The warnings go till 5:15, I believe, or at least one of them does. And so we'll kind of stick with them there. Again, for folks that are just getting to a television, that are just getting to our Facebook Lives or whatever, if they've lost power and wanting to know what's going on, here's what we're dealing with. 2 tornado warnings in effect across a broad area of northeastern Louisiana, stretching from portions of Madison Parish into East Carroll and West Carroll parishes. Both of these go for about another 15, 20 minutes, if not another half hour or so. And for those that are joining us on Facebook Live and are getting rain back to the west, and I'm talking Monroe, Bastrop, Crossett and Hamburg, El Dorado, Camden, Hampton, Monticello, if I didn't mention it already, Monticello, Arkansas, not Monticello, Louisiana, Homer and Haynesville and Jonesboro Hodge and all these areas, you're done with the severe weather threats. It is this main line that's approaching the Mississippi River and still interests back to the south and west. I know it's just severe thunderstorm warnings, but we need to stop thinking like that. We need to stop, oh, it's just a severe thunderstorm warning. Because again, with severe thunderstorm warnings, a lot of folks have lived through severe thunderstorm warnings, a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings, but have never actually experienced a severe thunderstorm. And that's something that gets kind of caught and lost in translation a lot when we talk about severe thunderstorms. They're large, and they're highlighting the potential for 60 mile an hour wind gusts. That does not mean that a wall of 60 mile an hour winds is moving through. That's not how it works. It means that where the most intense parts of the thunderstorm are moving through, some stronger winds aloft translate down to the surface, and you get sporadic 60 mile an hour wind gusts. That's why a lot of folks, when they get hit by a severe thunderstorm, think they've been hit by a tornado. And it's because you've lived through so many severe thunderstorm warnings, but have never truly seen a severe thunderstorm with those 60 or 70 mile an hour wind gusts. And additionally, straight line winds in many instances can be just as strong as an EF0 or an EF1 tornado. We get downbursts and straight line wind gusts that exceed 80 miles an hour at times. They can sometimes exceed 90 miles per hour at times. So that 60 mile an hour threshold is kind of the low end estimation point when you start talking about those types of things. So again, treat a severe thunderstorm warning today like you would treat a tornado warning. Get off the roads, find a safe place, wait for the storm to pass. Our biggest area of concern with these areas of rotation, at least in my mind, and Alex kind of just said it too, is right along kind of the junction points of these two tornado warnings across far southeastern reaches of East Carroll Parish, south of Lake Providence, right along Highway 65. That would be, I believe, in the Transylvania area, if I'm not mistaken, or the Grimes area, my apologies. So you can see, actually, Transylvania is off to the north a little bit. Actually, no, it's right there. Okay. Again, we zoom in on the map for so much, and you kind of lose your scale of where you are on a map sometimes. But yeah, here's Transylvania, here's the Grimes area, and there's our possible tornado right along Highway 65. Again, acknowledging that these are not necessarily highly populated areas, but if there's one person in the path, then they need to know. And so that's what we'll continue to relay in terms of information. If you were waiting to see whatever's on Fox 14 at this point, I believe it's college basketball. Well, we're off the air anyway, so we're just going to go ahead and stick with you. There's a power outage at our transmitter site. It's a pretty widespread power outage. Engineers are working to get that restored. And the reason that we're on in KTVE is because that transmitter's up in southern Arkansas. And so, again, kind of the benefit of having those two towers in separate areas and being able to keep us on the air. Still watching this little appendage back here to the south. We're getting closer to the Mississippi River, but I don't want to lose focus on areas like Tensas Parish. This little area of rotation here, and then another little area of rotation. These southernmost storms are still kind of hanging on to their supercell structure. A lot of this is still like it's just a main line. It's all merged together. But this area right here is still basically a little supercell out ahead of the main line. The southern edge kind of still has that little supercellular structure. So a tornado warning could be issued for those areas in the short term. But right now, main focus is on the storms as they approach Highway 65 and points just west of Highway 65, generally along the Mississippi River, continuing to get some refreshed radar images. And I'll switch over to our radar just to see if we can see anything just a smidge better. To be honest with you, with Jackson right here on the bottom back right hand side of my screen, their radar and our radar are pretty much in kind of the same distance away from this storm in terms of surveying it. It's a little bit easier perhaps for the National Weather Service radar just because they're kind of on the front edge or the leading edge of this activity, so they can perhaps see it a smidge more readily. But for folks in Lake Providence, Grimes, Transylvania, you need to be sheltered. You should have been sheltered a long time ago. We've been on the air now for the better part of 2.5 hours, or give or take, since about 2:30 this afternoon when the first warnings popped up, and we've been kind of shouting town names and city names well in advance. So if you've heard it, get to your safe place. Back to the west, severe weather threats ending. It's really a focus right now, right along the Mississippi River. This area right here just really bothers me right now. Just east now of Transylvania, approaching the Mississippi River. And again, once these storms get east of the Mississippi River, kind of out of our hair and good news for us. Still monitoring the storms back to the southwest. Tornado watch remains in effect, again, until 9. I don't really expect the tornado threat to exist in our area that late. In fact, I think we've got about another hour-ish of severe weather potential. And even as these storms crawl toward the Mississippi River, I think we'll see our severe threat end rather rapidly. And given the atmospheric conditions, it can't end soon enough, because there's a lot of folks that are in the path of this developing storm system, where the ingredients for severe weather are actually strengthening as the day progresses. We had the hail-producing storms this morning, and then we've had this second wave move through, and that's been responsible for all the tornadic potential. And aside from the one eyewitness confirmation, we really haven't had any concrete confirmation of tornadoes actually developing within these warnings. That'd be the best case scenario. If we can get through all this with a little bit of wind and a little bit of rain and very limited damages and limited power outages, that would be a very big plus, considering the ingredients that are in play for potential severe thunderstorms today. As I step off the screen for just a second, I just wanted to again zoom in on this area south of Lake Providence. I know we're getting really close to the Mississippi River now, and getting to a point where these storms are starting to kind of exit our region. But for folks along and south of Lake Providence, and if this storm holds together long enough, it would eventually move toward Rolling Fork, Mississippi, which March of 2022, 23 got hit by a big EF4 tornado. So again, adjacent sections of Mississippi, unfortunately, now in the line of fire of what we've been dealing with for the better part of today. Back out to the south and west, as I mentioned, an area east of the Gilbert and Wisner area, not necessarily screaming tornado, but is at least somewhat rotating. Just keeping tabs on all of it. I know we're zoomed way in on a storm that doesn't have a tornado warning. There's the adjacent tornado warning for the rest of East Carroll Parish. That will also include Issaquah County, Washington County, Sharkey County, and maybe even far northern reaches, yes, of Warren County. So adjacent sections of Mississippi are now being warned downstream of our tornado warning as it approaches the Mississippi River in portions of East Carroll Parish and also in Madison Parish. In fact, I want to go back to this area near Tallulah and Richmond, an area that is still rotating and still shows signs of a possible tornado. Again, bouncing between a lot of different radar images, but what I'm talking about is this area right here, right over the Tallulah-Richmond area along I-20 and Highway 80. Not necessarily, like I said, a clearly evident tornado, but an area of rotation where a tornado could form.
Not only that, it's impacting an area that has already received a strong wind gust, a damaging potential wind gust, and also the heavy rain threat. So when you have these already soaked soils, because again, this isn't our first system of the week, this is our multiple systems of the week. So your soils are already soaked. So do be cautious of any debris that may be on the road, not due to tornadic activity necessarily, but due to a straight line wind gusts that are even just further north or south of it. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning for the south of the area near Tensall Parish as well as Franklin Parish, and that goes until another 15 minutes or so, and that's for those stronger wind gusts. And as Jared mentioned before, when we say it has the potential to see a 60-mile-per-hour winds, that is not going to be a sustained potential to see that. That is gusts. The actual wind speed will be closer to, again, a range of 10 to 30 miles per hour at the maximum within that embedded line. And as we continue to track the line itself, as it continues to exit the region, it looks like in general, where it is not tornado warned, it looks to be bowing out rather significantly and turning into a more damaging wind gust event and rain event for areas towards the south and southwest.
And the new tornado warning that's now out for adjacent sections of Mississippi does include eastern East Carroll Parish. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Transylvania, which is the exact area that we've just been talking about, moving to the northeast at 40 miles per hour. So the